Can you please share the screen, and then we're gonna start with a prayer. Thank you, everybody, for you taking your precious time to be with us today. You know, the mere fact that you're here is a grace of God, and let us uh, affirm ourselves in the presence of God, in the presence of each other, and know that it's the Holy Spirit who get us here together, so that we can learn and we can serve our uh, đoàn sinh as well as each other, and our community and our world. So I'm going to start with a prayer. Next slide, please. From Cardinal Francis Stadium in Bangkok. So it says, from now on, Lord, help me to bring your love everywhere, to schools and hospitals, to marketplaces and theaters, to press and television. No one should be deprived of the environment of love. Lord, love is a means you want me to use to bear witness to you, or you would have shown me another way. I would add, Amen. Yes. So to begin, I'd like to let you know the way that I'm going to run this uh, session. I have my timer on for 40 minutes, and I'm going to ask you to volunteer, or I'm going to pick your name. I may not see all of your name, but I remember who's been on. So if I say, oh, Trưởng Khanh, Trưởng Christina, Trưởng Ngọc Phương, help me out because I can't see everybody on at this time. Or if I ask if you want to volunteer, please say right away so we don't lose the time. Okay. And we're going to have some exercise, and I may ask you to just, read the vignette later on, because otherwise I'll be the one talking and you just sit there and listen. So this way we interact a little bit as best as we can uh, um, online. Yeah. Rồi, next slide. So, as we share, we need to know that there are a lot of things that uh, have been bullied in the past. Okay, and you can see that Saint Josephine Bakhita, Saint Dominic, Saint Therese de Lisieux, Saint Catharina, Sky Thanksgiving, how what is it when she put on her costume? She does a lot with Saint Catherine, as well as Saint Narcissus. So remember Saint, and I'm going to show you somebody later who has also been bullied quite a bit as well. Next slide, please. So to explore the topic, can someone volunteer to read the first vignette, please? Next slide, please.
Trưởng Tina.
Okay.
Thank you, Trưởng Tina.
You're welcome. You've seen a youth being teased because youth is not clear at reading and writing. You've noticed that youth has stopped engaging. Stop engaging and started to sit alone. Is the teasing bullying? What should you do? Number one,
Okay.
nothing.
So
sorry.
you can stop. So anyway, there are 5 choices there. Can all of you read it and then poll? Trưởng Dương, can you let people know how to poll?
Yes, I think everybody should see it on your screen through Trưởng Anh Thư. So there's a poll with yes or no.
Can you read now? You have to say one. Oh, you want to say yes or no when we read out the number, hả Trưởng Dương? Hay là
Anh
do
Thư.
they say,
Không,
do they
không
pick?
chị, that poll actually will show you the result of the responses.
Okay, so I want them to pick either number 1 or number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or number 5. Each of you can pick one number, but how do they do that?
You just go on to the poll and click the choice of that you choose.
Okay, so can everybody go on the poll and then put in the number that you think should be what any one of us would do?
I think Anh Thư, because the poll only give us 2 options, just yes or no. Maybe Anh Thư set a poll for 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yep.
I think it's fun to do this so that we see, what people would say. And then hopefully we can see real time how many people pick what number. So I see somebody pick 1. Are we able to get the result now?
Chị có thấy result không chị?
No, chị chưa thấy em. Oh, okay. Now I see it on my screen. I don't see it, but on my team, on
On your
my
chat. Dạ vâng.
yeah, on my chat, and I see it. So a lot of people pick 2, and some pick 3, and so the majority pick number 2. Okay, so okay, and this is like a pre-test, and I hopefully maybe at the end we'll do it again and to see whether your answer would be the same or different or what. So next one, can I please get a volunteer to read the second vignette, and then you're gonna poll the second vignette too, please.
Maybe Jessica. Hi, Jessica. Can you help?
Hi, I'm actually driving right now. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So I'll just read. All right. Your youth's older stepbrother is very fond of youth. He often wants to kiss and hug youth. You have seen youth push his brother away. Although you like stepbrother, you feel uncomfortable too. What should you do?
So let's poll again. Could you poll to see whether you would take
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 action?
Yep. Poll is live. Invite all to select an option.
Very good. Very good. Good going on. All right. So pretty much the majority would take number 1, tell the parents, and the second is separate youth and stepbrother from being in same activities, something that maybe we think that makes sense. And number 2, tell him off. And last is we probably would do something else. So thank you. I'm gonna close up poll for the time being. Okay. And so vignette number 3, which is our last vignette. Volunteer to read, please.
All right. Phượng ơi, can you help Phượng? Thank you.
Yeah. A youth told you that older sister or brother or friend keeps hitting and kicking youth when nobody is looking. Older sibling or friend threatens youth not to tell anyone. Otherwise, sibling friend would hurt the youth by another way. What should you do?
Thank you, Phượng. So now, if everybody can pick again, what would you do? Tell the parent, ask the friend to help you fight the bully, or tell the bullies in private that it hurt them to stop doing it, or separate them from being in the same activities, or would you do something else? Cái poll em chỉ có 2 cái thôi là check mark and X thôi, không có 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 em clear. Okay, very good. I can see it now. So lots of people pick number 3, tell sibling friend in private that it hurts them to stop doing it. Or next one is tell parent about what is happening. So those are the choices. All right, thank you. So I took a screenshot of the answer just so that later on then we're gonna figure out. Okay. So next we're gonna connect. If we read those 3 vignettes, what would you think? Next slide in view on the reflection. What experience of bullying have you had in your life? You know, like you share. I can tell you, I was bullied a lot when I was younger because, you know, I wasn't looking very sharp like other girls. I'm kind of a late bloomer. And when I became a doctor already, I was bullied for being not a other American white man doctor, you know, by a lot of nurses. So it happens whether you're really young, it happens when you're older as well. So what things were said, not said, done, not done, that should have been done to assist you? How did that experience make you feel? How the experience affect your self-image, your confidence, your daily life, your relationship, and even your career? Or even would you live in the same place where you were bullied, or would you go to the same school? You want to even go back and visit that location if that's where you had the negative experience? How did the experience affect how you view others? And in what way does it still affect you today? Do you feel triggered when something happened? And then again, because we're talking about these, sometimes these experiences can be traumatic. If you feel that, you know, you're not feeling great, you know, feel free to walk away, you know, take a big deep breath, go wash your face, drink water, you know, doing whatever just so that you can bring yourself down and ground yourself. You know, you don't have to stay here if you're being triggered. How might Jesus say or act if he sees someone bullying another person? How might Jesus respond to the bullying? How might Jesus react to the bystanders? Do we recall that Jesus was ever bullied, called name, goaded, laughed at, minimized, chased away, hit, kicked, spat on? You know, I mean, we probably think that from reading a lot of the gospel Bible story, we know that Jesus experienced all of these. So, you know, some of our experience, good, bad, you know, Jesus as human experienced all of them as well. Next slide, please. So to understand this, you know, there are many types of bullying, okay? And bullying is an aggressive behavior, whether it's real or whether it's only perceived. You don't think it's a big deal, but somebody else thinks it's a big deal. That's a bullying experience. And it's repeated over time, and it causes harm to the person. And bullying could be verbal, such as threat or rumors, physical, could be relational. Either you exclude somebody or you include, or you have to be in my group. You know, I only want you to be here. You can't be with somebody else. Could be sexual, it could be prejudicial, it could be online. Okay, so all of those are form of bullying. Next slide, please. You know, and there's a power imbalance. Again, whether it's real or perceived. In physical, in size, in popularity, in background, in ability, in skill, in access, in feeling that we outnumber. You know, other people may have weapons, may have more designer stuff, may have, you know, the latest than another person. That's still a power imbalance. Okay? Somebody may look sharp, or somebody may come more prepared, you know, with their assignment than others, without understanding the situation where the person who could not accomplish the assignment, you know, and say, oh, why can't you finish like somebody else does? That could be perceived, you know, as a bullied experience as well. Next slide, please. So when we look at bullying experience, some people may say, oh, you know, that's part of their age. It's rough play, it's teasing, it's kids, they do it. It's, you know, people just misperceive like that, but it's not really it. Or, you know, they don't get along, forget it, they'll get better. You know, we need to reflect and make sure that we chalk it up to any of these. Next slide, please. Bullying is an illegal behavior defined by the federal law. So be careful that when we don't address it, sometimes we may get into you know, a legal situation that, and then because we are leaders, we are educators. Yeah, as a physician, for example, a psychiatrist, if you know, we are pretty much required by our license, you know, to be able to recognize this behavior and report. Next slide, please. Bullying could be direct or indirect. Indirect is, they don't know that other people are spreading false rumors or impersonating or forward, the photos of them to another person, or impersonating, create a different online persona, pretending to be this person. So all of that can be indirect bullying. Next slide, please. I want to share with you some statistics in school bullying between 2021 and 2011, which is in parentheses. And you can see the incident of school bullying has increased. And we can see that between over the decade, the incident of cyberbullying became a lot more, because in 2011, probably not a lot compared to before. So next slide, please. Electronic bullying, as you can see that among students who reported being bullied, female students reported being bullied online more and at text at a rate of 3 times of male. And a higher percentage of high school students reported being bullied online at text rather than middle school students. So you can see, as they have more access to device, to internet, then the exposure cause more incidents of bullying. Next slide, please. The difference between cyberbullying versus bullying. The terrible thing with cyberbullying is never stop. You can't bully somebody unless you're face to face. But with cyberbullying, it's constant. There's no safe place. It's shared by a wider audience. The bully can be anonymous. You can't even tell who it is. And the bully, because of behind an anonymity, then you don't empathize with the other person. Go by your gut. Oh, you don't like this person, therefore you can just say negative things about them. How many times do we see online somebody post like, giống như today I saw, Cô Kỳ Duyên say she's the richest, she lives in a rich neighborhood because she's rich. It wasn't posted by her. So a lot of people, online, the comment was, she's not the only rich person. Why does she think that she's rich just because she's in Ping'an? But, I don't know. I don't know whether she did that or not, or somebody just say that to her, but yet she's the one that all these negative statements. So I want to share with you something that I saw today. No geographical limitation. And of course, the target can turn around and can become the bully, and the person can be anonymous as well, and we don't know. Okay? So roles in bullying, next slide, please. We have lots of people who participate or not participate, but you still take a role in a bullying cycle. You could be the bully, the bullied, the follower, the supporter, the bystanders, whether you observe and you just like ignore, or you don't like it, but you sort of stand around and you don't intervene, or you're the upstander and the defender. Next slide, please. So this is just a infographic to show you how each person involved in a bullying cycle. Okay, risk factor in bullying. Next slide, please. As you can see there are many factors that influence the bullying experience. Okay? From an individual standpoint, next slide, please. It could be the temperament of the person, hơi là shy, nhút nhát một tí xíu. Maybe some behavior issues, some social engagement and skill. Maybe that person have learning disability, have some, ADHD, autism. This by no means is this is all. There could be more, but I just list all of these. It could be special need, weight issue, physical. You look a little bit different. Your nose a little bit bigger. Your ears kind of pop out a little bit. Your hair is more coarse. Speak the language not as well. You can speak a dialect, or it could be because of how you look and other people perceive, or you're not straight or whatever. Okay. Next slide for home and family risk factor. You could have parental temperament. There are lots of Asian families that say, con đi học, con ráng chỉ đi học thôi, đừng có đụng chạm gì người ta nói con, gì người ta nói một sự nhịn là 9 sự lành. When you don't say something, then once you bring 9 good things to yourself. Okay? or parents are less involved because they're very busy at work or they have their own issue, or the way their parenting style, or they have issues at home, domestic violence. If a kid at home identify with a mother and the mother happened to be the victim, then the kid may say, hey, that's who I am. I'm somebody who's not good enough, therefore I deserve, to be bullied. If that person identify with the abuser and happen to be the father, then say, oh, if they don't make me happy, then I can just tell them aggressively that this is how I like it. But then for my example, I don't want you to think that mother is always a victim and father is always the aggressor. There are lesser incidents where, the roles reverse as well. Okay? Or you could be, in a home, they don't follow the rules, or they feel violence positively, from being exposed to the news constantly, or from gaming, for example. Next slide, please. Or in school, the people don't get along at school or at CUNY. There are people that go to CUNY and say that, I don't feel like I belong here. I have last year, I asked 3 kids to go to a certain CUNY here in Orange County. And after a year, I check back and I say, how are the 3 kids doing? They don't like it at all. They don't feel that, they accept it because they came here recently, came to America. So, that hurts me a little bit. Well, eventually the family went back to their own country. So that's the end of that family participation in CUNY. Whether the environment, make them feel, and again, I want you to know, it's not whether we think that we respect or we treat them fair. They also need to perceive that they're being respected and treated fairly. Are there, adequate adult supervision? Are there engaged adults that do the supervision? It's not just a mere present adult, but it has to be an engaged adult who's willing to watch and who's willing to intervene. Okay? Whether they're responsive, and as well as, youth that feel supported by their peers or feel supported by their staff so that they can report their experience. But next slide, please. Or the community, they have to feel safe to, even they go to CUNY, but maybe, they also say, if I can't say anything with Quincy, maybe I can go to my teacher, I can go to, Ban Thường vụ, I can go to my dad, I can go to my sales. Those are very important in helping decrease the risk. And the impact of bullying, there's the impact on physical health, mental health, academic performance, later life, career, how they raise their children, how they marry, and things like that. Okay, next slide. So there are lots of information. I won't go through them, but I just want to show you from a physical health, many symptoms that may keep kids at school, not, oh, mom, I feel so sick. Every time they think about going to CUNY, they may say, oh, I don't feel well, I need to stay home, right? And they exit. So yeah, parents want to keep their strength to go to school, so they're going to keep them home from attending CUNY, for example. Okay, next slide. Mental health, yes, it's going to cause them to be depressed. They're going to internalizing things if they're not able to express. They can be reactive and violent in different situations that we may say, hey, nothing happened. Why did you react like that? Okay, because in them they put 2 and 3 together, but we don't see it. So we may see that, these people are inappropriate. Okay? But, or, they could go to substances in order to take care of themselves. Next slide, please. If you can see lots of things in the print and in media to talk about the risk of suicide with bullying. Next slide, please. And I can show you that there are many studies already that shows, significant of suicide related to bullying. Next slide, please. This is just another infographic to show that with cyberbullying the same way, the significant incidence of suicide is cyberbullying as well. Next slide. There's many as 160,000 students stay home at any given day just because they are afraid that they would be bullied. Happens. So imagine at school, then I would imagine at a church, it would happen as well. Like I said, there's academic consequence. Next slide, life consequence. Next slide. They don't report bullying because they don't think it's cool to report. A lot of kids say, this is snitching. This is a chit-chatting that is unbecoming of you. If we find you chit-chatting or snitching, we will exclude you. So that's a double whammy. Or sometimes even if they report, then the adults say, hey, it's kid stuff, and then they don't take it seriously, make the kids feel really hurt. Next slide up here. Kids say we're feeling sorry for it, but then sometimes, they say, oh, but there's not much we can do about it. Girls tend to be more sympathetic. So best practice in bullying prevention is, next slide, next two slides. Yeah, so, clearly research demonstrates that if we have a positive climate, and I didn't want to change the school to Tinley, because the study done with school, so I put in there school, but we could extrapolate that to, our environment as well. That if we have a positive climate, a safe environment, an equitable culture where we look at everybody as unique individual, a child of God, everybody is unique in that we create by God after the image of God, then that is part of bullying prevention and intervention. We need to know the true law. What does God say? God say, love God and love others. And Jesus say, if you say you love God and you don't love others, then you can't say that you love God. So, or lots of government law designed to protect the people. Make sure that we build anti-bullying partnership with community, with parents, teach people. We need to establish policy, teach, practice, and revise. Okay? Empower youth and leaders to bullying awareness, and make sure that our skills in prevention, intervention, and reporting are culturally responsive and inclusive. What worked for Euro American may not work for Asian American, for example. So we need to be sensitive in that. That's sort of people can be more responsive. Increase adult supervision, intervene immediately, consistently, equitably, and appropriately. Okay, and make sure we monitor anti-bullying prevention and intervention and revise if necessary. Next slide, please. So we need to talk about, teach people about the recognize sign, recognize role, read social cues, report, teach intervention skill, everywhere that we are present. Next slide, please. Talk about it's not enough though. We need to talk, we need to teach, we need to practice, and we need to debrief as well. We need to learn positive behavior and social emotional skills. We need to also reinforce passive stand-up behavior. And again, we periodically need to review, practice, and debrief. And peers are very important. Okay, if you're just sympathetic, it's not going to do anything. So we need to teach each other to intervene, even if somebody, a peer, intervene, the bullying start within 10 seconds. But if we don't stop, then somebody will continue. Next one, please. And of course, teach people netiquette. Next slide, please. What are they gonna do safely online? Keep your setting private. You don't have to post everything. Next slide, please. And the research recommend that in part of anti-bullying, we should not do conflict resolution and peer mediation because there's that power imbalance. Peer mediation is like, what can we negotiate? No, when there's a perceived power imbalance bullying, we need to put a stop to it. We don't mediate. Okay, we don't do group, and the reason we don't do group is there may be power imbalance, and when you put the bully together with the victims and you say, oh, what can we do together? The victim may feel really afraid and they're not going to be able to tell the truth. Okay? Or we cannot overstating or simplify the relationship of the bullying and suicide, because we say, oh, maybe that person committed suicide or that person was depressed because something else. and bullying, maybe be careful when you say that. Okay? Or it's not that you can't do short-term solution, but don't stop at that. Okay, that's not adequate. So next one, in order to live it, I want to you to listen to 2 minutes of the YouTube. Em anh thư giúp chị.
When I was a kid, I used to think that pork chops and karate chops were the same thing. I thought they were both pork chops. And because my grandmother thought it was cute, and because they were my favorite, she let me keep doing it. Not really a big deal. One day, before I realized fat kids are not designed to climb trees, I fell out of a tree and bruised the right side of my body. I didn't want to tell my grandmother about it because I was scared I'd get in trouble for playing somewhere I shouldn't have been. A few days later, the gym teacher noticed the bruise and I got sent to the principal's office. From there, I was sent to another small room with a really nice lady who asked me all kinds of questions about my life at home. I saw no reason to lie. As far as I was concerned, life was pretty good. I told her whenever I'm sad, my grandmother gives me karate chops. This led to a full-scale investigation, and I was removed from the house for 3 days until they finally decided to ask how I got the bruises. News of this silly little story quickly spread through the school, and I earned my first nickname, Pork Chop. To this day, I hate pork chops. I'm not the only kid who grew up this way.
Thank you.
Surrounded by people who used to say that rhyme about sticks and stones. As if broken bones hurt more than the names we got called, and we got called them all. So we grew up believing no one would ever fall in love with us, that we'd be lonely forever, that we'd never meet someone to make us feel like the sun was something they built for us in their tool shed. So broken heartstrings bled the blues as we tried to empty ourselves so we would feel nothing. Don't tell me that hurts less than a broken bone, that an ingrown life is something surgeons can cut away, that there's no way for it to metastasize. It does. She was 8 years old, our first day of grade 3, when she got caught.
Thank you very much. I get this YouTube article, Kathleen link, which I put it right there. So it's about 7 minutes. So if các trưởng want to, review the rest of the stuff, you could go there. Okay. So for the next 5 minutes, what I like to do is, you should have a vignette. Could you, or maybe we have to post a vignette up because the group don't have a the vignette. So maybe we give you 3 groups, and then each group can take one vignette and work through each of the case and see how you picked it first, and now through 30 minutes of presentation, what would you do differently? And then we'll come back in 5 minutes sharp, and then you can let us know. Pick one leader that can present like in 1 minute each, how you would take care of the situation. Yeah. Can you just select, can group 1 select vignette 1 and group 2 select vignette 2? Oh yeah, anh Thư, cảm ơn em. Yeah, anh Thư put it in the chat.
All right, so I'm gonna randomly split everyone into 3 groups, and your group will be identified by that number. And then Trường Anh Thư already posted the vignette in the chat, so you can read on there. Within the time that you have, say 10 minutes.
No, not 10 minutes. We don't have enough.
Oh, never mind. So 5 minutes. Come up with a minute in terms of how the team would work at resolving it. Okay.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank
so
you.
Splitting into 3.
Thank you.
All right. It's randomly dividing. You should be in your room. and then we'll just pull you back. Thank you. Are people in their rooms here?
Not yet.
Oh.
You.
Interesting. I hit assign. I hit random. Okay. All right. That's my first time doing this. There we go. Is it going? We tested out earlier, works just like a charm. All right, so everybody should be in your room now. I think it's going. Our Zoom, it's a whole lot better. Okay. Is everybody still here?
Yes, anh Dương.
Okay. All right, so some got assigned. All right, so room 1 is set. Okay, somehow they're not letting me do so randomly. All right, we'll just manually assign. All right. So there are 7 people in room 1. There's 10 in room 2. They're going. Yep. Thank you for your patience. Teams is a little bit slower in capability. All right, so they're in there, and then the rest will all be in group 3. All right, thank you. All right, and then everyone else here left, you'll be in group 4, so you can work on vignette 1. How about that?
Are we all back?
No, I think they're in their groups right now.
Oh, because it says that
They pulled me back.
yeah,
Weird.
it
out.
says that everybody's back. You know, it's okay.
It is weird. All right, I think we'll just let's just do it in this room.
Yeah. So can somebody volunteer? Did you delegate to present? And you know, I mean, it's not that we have one right answer, and it may take combination effort. And again, you know, we have to figure out what works, and then if it doesn't work, come back and do it better next time. And what may work for one group may not work for the other group. Period. So don't feel like there's only one strategy. So may I get the first volunteer for vignette 1?
There's people still in groups.
Oh, vậy hả?
Yeah, em bắt đầu start thì they pull me back to the to the pool, to the main.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we haven't
So
started discussing
everybody
yet.
should be back now. Everybody should be coming back now. Right. So the group didn't work out, G. So we'll just do that here together. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So if we don't have, may I get a volunteer to say now that with vignette 1, who would like to volunteer and say, what would you do and how is it different from, from your initial thought process?
I think my group is not here yet. It's only 23 people. Yeah. There's some other people in other groups.
Đúng là mình có gần
30
30
người.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Thank you,
I
Derek, for
closed.
saying
I
that.
closed the rest of the groups already. My apologies.
They slowly crawl back.
Yeah. It's Teams is not as efficient as Zoom, and we're problem solving on how to access Zoom. Okay.
So we're still losing somebody somewhere.
Yeah. No, they should all be back or trickling back because we closed all of the rooms already. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe those people just left. So that's fine.
Yeah.
So if I may, Derek ơi, tại vì Derek nói đó, thành ra nhờ Derek, what strategy would you use to address the vignette 1 nhé?
Yeah, okay. So you have seen youth mentees because youth is not clear at reading and writing.
Yeah.
You have noticed that you stop engaging and start sit alone. Is the teasing and bullying? What should you do? So that's where we start from there.
What strategy would you pick to address the situation?
For me, I choose number 4, separate youth and friends from being same activities, and then slowly speak to the friends and the youth at different rate. I mean different separately, and tell them to give the youth confidence for next time when they talk or read or write, with that confidence, maybe push the reading and writing a little bit more. And at the same time, they are friends. We advise them, not everybody at the same level, certain level as that friend. So we make sure that friend acknowledge that.
Cảm ơn Derek nhiều lắm.
Yeah.
The way to look at this one, I probably would not tell parents what's happening right away. I wouldn't, because you want to be good to the children, right? You don't want to go, see something, you go tell right away, unless it's a recurrent issue. So sometimes kids need to be taught, need to feel, I love you very much, but do you think this thing you're doing help or hurt the other person? Because the bully may not be aware of their own behavior at all. I definitely would not pick number 2. Number 3 is, to me, you can do it, but you cannot. But you can do it, or you may not do it. However, if you address everything in private, the victim doesn't feel that the victim is being defended. Okay, so you really have to make sure that the victims feel that there are people on their side, and this is a safe place for the victim to be in. So remember, it has to be a safe climate, an equitable culture, and a culturally sensitive environment. Remember those 3 things. Separate them from being in same activities, maybe right away to intervene, but that would not be the way to go, because you want to make sure that you definitely take care of that perceived bullying experience. They need to be able in the same activities, and the older sister or brother or friend can the youth can be in activity, and the friend cannot be picking on them at all. So that is my suggestion. Would you have any input?
Dạ không, chị cứ go on ha,
Okay.
chỉ còn 2
Yeah.
vignette nữa. We have
Okay.
in 10
Rồi,
minutes. Yeah.
vignette number 2. Can I get a volunteer? Mai Trâm được không? Please. What strategy would em pick for vignette 2?
I would pick?
Yeah.
I would pick hold on, let me read it. I would pick separate the youth and stepbrother from being in the same activity, because for me it would look bad if the youth is not related to the stepbrother. This youth could be related, could not be related. They could be related not to you, but then the stepbrother is related to you. So then it looks bad that you're like you favor that person more, and it might be like something bad might happen to them in the future, bad to them later on, like, and it could go down like kind of an illegal something. It could go down illegal in the end.
Okay. So to aim short term, you separate, but then we need to go and address the issue again. You have to make sure that the situation is safe right away, whether that takes separation right away, but that's part of your intervention strategy. And then, like you say in vignette 1, definitely make sure that you educate, the bully, the victims, as well as the entire đoàn hay là group, community, so that everybody can be together and act respectful toward each other. Huh? Okay, vignette number 3. I'm gonna ask for, how about Mary? Did I ask Mary before? Are you able, or are you the one that's driving? So sorry, Mary. Em làm được không, Mary?
Hi.
Yeah, vignette 3. What strategy would em pick?
I would do number 3.
Okay, you would do number 3, which is, a youth told you that an older brother or sister or friend just keep kicking him and threaten if he tells them they're going to hurt more. So you would tell sibling and friend in private that it hurt them to stop doing it.
Yes.
That could be one strategy, and we recommend that you don't stop at that. You need to teach the community, and again, you need to be able to have them come back together, and that everybody needs to understand that you have to respect each other, and what are some of the behavior that's okay and acceptable, and what are some behavior that absolutely cannot continue because it can be perceived as aggressive and as bullying to the others. And I'm not afraid to use the term bullying. Let them know, call them, name the action, and let them know, how would you feel somebody doing that against your wish? Okay, so I would do that. Do we have time for another repoll of the 3 vignettes, or we don't? Up to you.
Yeah, we still have about 5 to 10 minutes, chị. So.
Okay, rồi. Anh Thư ơi, em có thể repoll giùm chị thử coi, through our conversation over the last 40 minutes, whether people still choose the same.
It doesn't let me
Repoll.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like you say, it's a combination, but I suggest strongly that you also consider 5, something else, and it's not just necessarily 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So next slide. So when you go through any activity, you go through an incident, it's very important to debrief and evaluate our action. Okay. So it's a slide 51. So how do you feel about the experience? Were some of the scenes difficult for you to respond? Which one? Can you relate? Do you feel people need help? Even if you don't perceive that's a bullying experience, do you feel that people need help? How do you let people know that they can always come to you if they need help? Is it fair? Then, so some of these are some of the questions through research, I put out there. So hopefully you can use references for future. Khi mà mấy em, want to go through some of the debriefing and evaluation for your strategy, your program, or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Last slide is a resource slides. I would like to put in here from the Archdiocese of Dubuque. They have really good video. So if you don't know what curriculum you want to use, to me, I mean, it's like a gold mine that I landed on this. I would use it over and over again. I don't need to recreate. You can go in there. There's an early childhood, and there's reflection question, older youth, and there's a video about St. Catherine of Tecaquita, how she was bullied, and there's some Bible verse about bullying if you want to teach them about that. Composito is a manual on human rights education for children. In there, there's like bullying, there's word that hurts, there's different way that you can, they give you ideas already to address, some of the social emotional skills. And there's, facts about bullying and stop bullying, that POV prevention effort, resources if you want to go in there. So with that, I am going to stop. Thank you. We can start the polling. Thank you. Xong rồi Trịnh Dương.
Dạ rồi, em cảm ơn chị Thanh Tâm thật là nhiều. So we have a couple minutes. Nếu mà quý trưởng on the line, if you have specific question, có những câu hỏi các trưởng muốn raise, this will be the time to do it. I invite you to do so. Just go ahead and unmute and speak, or turn on your camera, or raise your hand, and then we'll call on you. Often nghe nói thiếu nhi của mình mắc cỡ nhiều lắm.
Chị Tâm, how do you encourage or teach the youth to put a stop to bullying if they see the peer is bullying another friend?
Yeah, I would go in and say, it seems like, there's some struggling going on here. So let's take a break. Let's go out here, figure out what's going on. So the way you would do it is, I don't make anybody feel bad at all. I would just put a stop by saying, hey, I see something that maybe we need to take offline, and move them to outside. So at least what we accomplished is we stop that from happening. People, the bully may be really upset at something. You need to calm that person down, because when the brain is so aggressive, so hyper, sometimes they won't be able to hear you. So we need to bring the bully down, and we need to bring the fearful victims up, so they at the ground level before we can really talk to them. So that's what I would do.
All right. So there's a question online from Tina. What should we do if a parent says something belittling to one of the các em? So ví dụ turn to one em and say something, mày ngu vậy, mày đọc sách hoài mà mày không hiểu. Ví dụ, example.
Yeah. Well, again, that's our perception, right? Again, if you look at the risk factors, that we looked at, it's something for us to reflect. We might feel really bad because we raised here in America, and we definitely are not used to that kind of language. Nhưng mà mình không có biết cái gia đình này từ cái background nào họ raised, and whether this is something they used to doing it, and they are not aware. So if you see something like that, if you're an older huynh trưởng and you feel like, you are on par with the parents, I would say go sit down one-to-one and I say, chị, it's interesting how I hear you say this. Can you tell me more about it? Okay. If you don't feel that you're the person that would talk, maybe go to, anh đoàn trưởng lớn hơn, hoặc là huấn luyện viên nào lớn hơn, hoặc là trợ tá nào lớn hơn, hoặc là một người trong ban thường vụ, sister, cha, to help you. Because again, we have to be culturally sensitive and respectful. So it's to address the issue, but as well to be tactful and to align them, to get them to our side and not to make them lose space, because nobody is going to be able to change behavior if they lose space. So it's a loaded question. There's way it can be done, but definitely it takes a lot of tact.
Yeah.
Mời
All
Dương,
right.
nếu mà Dương muốn nói thêm về cái đó.
Yeah, time for one more question from anyone. Right. So nếu không, if I can just summarize some of the key points chị Thanh-Tam chia sẻ cho các trưởng nha, from a prevention standpoint and more applicable to phong trào thiếu nhi thánh thể của mình and for your chapter. So I would invite all đoàn trưởng, các trưởng trong ban chấp hành, các ngành trưởng, at the start of your sinh hoạt year or academic year, quote unquote, have that conversation with the ngành and the đoàn. And so in that conversation, do convey to toàn thể các em that this đoàn, this phong trào, and this parish has a zero tolerance for any form of bullying, right? So make that clear, be firm on it, and have some ways to demonstrate some examples. That can be a skit, that can be a video that we saw earlier, that can be some form of example. Because many times, sometimes các em, as chị Thanh-Tam trình bày, one of the reasons as to why they bully, perhaps they don't know and they learn it from their parents. It's a form of power manipulation. And so to be able to educate các em and also các huynh trưởng as well, many of us we don't know, so we don't recognize what would constitute bullying. So have some of those examples demonstrated. I mean, we can ease down the heaviness of the emotion by làm một cái skit hơn, một cái gì đó để cho các em có thể thấy được. And then as you talk about it, say, we do not tolerate this. Should this happen, should we observe this to happen after intervention, reminder, and this continues on, with a zero policy, we will not be able to tolerate it and outline sort of what that may be. Whether it be cho các em nghỉ 1 tuần, 2 tuần, nói chuyện với phụ huynh, or giúp cho các em in some way. So I would say have that conversation early on so that các em then know. And then I would also invite you to also have the same conversation with the parents. Just as I would know, we now ask các đoàn to have parents meeting with các phụ huynh hàng năm, sort of share with các em, các phụ huynh as well, that's also not tolerated. So should that happen, you will have to speak to the parent about cái behavior của các em đó. And then, create an environment where it is not just on các anh chị huynh trưởng, but also empower các em, that when các em sees it, các em thấy, help các em to come up with a way to do so. I've seen some creative đoàn, like here's the sign. When you see someone and if you're afraid of doing so, you come up to in front of the huynh trưởng and you just go like this, for example. I'm giving you an example. And that was their way of communicating so that các em không có cảm thấy là các em feel in particular way. Some đoàn I said, just write on an anonymous note, just come up, give it to các anh chị huynh trưởng and say that, hey, I saw các em đó bị bullied, or I am myself is bullied, and what have you. And so during that opportunity, then các em would then learn that this is what I can do, and give các em permission to be able to call out những cái behavior gì mà các em cảm thấy nó không có đúng. Once that's done, nếu mà during the course of the year, khi các em bring it to your attention, do nothing is your indirect way of saying, let that behavior continue, right? Do nothing, ignoring, not bring it to attention, then it is our indirect way of saying, it's okay, let it happen. They're just kids being kids, right? But once you recognize it, make a point to intervene and make that known. So that's part of behavioral modification, where các em then learn. And I'm sort of presenting this in a general sense as các em, quote unquote, under normal development with just, behavior. And there are có những em khác special needs, so that will be a special, a separate topic. But I will invite đoàn from a prevention standpoint to have that discussion. If you do not have that discussion, then it is extremely harder to address it and to put a stop to it and then to get phụ huynh involved. So the best practice is to do it at the beginning of the year, lay it out, awareness, so that we all have some point of reference. It's sort of what we call universal intervention, prevention rather. Yeah. So that's a quick summary of some of the key points Thanh-Tam mentioned. This session is recorded, and then we have the resources as well. So by all means, as you go through your sinh hoạt, if need be, reach out. We're more than happy to facilitate and provide assistance as needed. Yeah. So chị Thanh-Tam, cảm ơn chị thật là nhiều. I know this is a true passion of yours, and you've been very committed to following through and doing one every quarter. And so we look forward to the next quarter of more practical, hands-on ways of working with the camp. Right. Rồi, con xin cảm ơn quý trưởng. And I also notice our chat tổng tướng úy it's on. So Phượng ơi, today must be your lucky day because you don't have to do the closing prayer for us and then the blessing. So xin có cha. Thưa cha, chúng con xin mời cha giúp cho chúng con lời nguyện bế mạc và ban phép lành cho chúng con nha. Tại hồi nãy giao cho Phượng dâng lời nguyện mở đầu mà chị Thanh-Tâm lại có lời nguyện mở đầu rồi, xong mới giao bên.
Làm Phượng mất hứng hết trơn, Phượng nói gì chuẩn bị rồi, đọc kinh rồi cho ban phép lành được không Phượng?
Dạ
Hello.
Dạ.
Dạ không.
Phượng đã chuẩn bị rồi phải không?
Dạ, lúc nào cũng sẵn sàng hết cha ơi.
Rồi vậy là dâng lời nguyện rồi cho ban phép lành được không?
Dạ vâng, dạ.
Nhưng mà cảm ơn chị Thanh-Tâm rất nhiều cho cái thời gian này và rất là tốt trong cái giờ này. Yes. Cảm ơn các trưởng đã lắng nghe nữa.
Let us quiet ourselves for a little bit. Today is the conversion of St. Paul. We all know that St. Paul used to bully us a lot, and God has shown grace, a lot of grace upon St. Paul and convert him. And so now we pray that God does the same within our hearts, within all hearts, and turn the bully in all of us into the defender toward others. And we pray this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Chúa cùng anh chị em.
Cha.
Xin Thiên Chúa toàn năng là Cha và Con và Thánh Thần ban phúc lành cho anh chị em.